Winter is here. Oh boy. It's really nice, out here. Um, I get a lot out of making these movies. I get more out of watching them later. I don't actually watch them, I listen to them. And I do get a lot out of listening to myself and how I form my ideas and what they are. And maybe I'll improve at that. I was thinking today I could stand some improvement on this particular. Oh boy. I also get a lot out of trading, and I get more out of looking at my trades and discussing them with my trading partner later, after I've photographed them and thoroughly looked them over myself. Then I talk with him about them. I was also thinking about the issue of self-sabotage. A lot of people claim that they sabotage themselves, which is impossible. So the question is, what are they trying to do? And there are actually lots of lessons in the web college that are relevant, but they don't, I'm not sure that they, well, maybe sabotage should be an immune dysfunction on the list, and then we could put, there are probably various categories like self, others, and animals. Sabotaging cats, for example. But one of them is, for example, if you're trying to prove that somebody harmed you, let's say you resent somebody, they may not be alive. You may not even know who it is, because it could be somebody in a past life that you haven't worked yet. So you don't know anything about it, but you're trying to prove that you were harmed by this person or thing, or maybe a dragon slayed you instead of you slaying it. It's not supposed to go like that, but oh boy. So that would be the lesson on proofs, and I think there are lots of other lessons that might explain behavior that looks like self-sabotage, but is actually directed at a result. You're simply trying to get a result that is different from the one that you have consciously set your mind on getting, like making money, let's say, So this is this is a talk about distinctions. It's a talk where I make a distinction between decisions and choices. And so I'll give you an example of a decision. Yesterday I decided I was going to the MD Oriental Market to buy salmon today. And today I changed my mind and took out some salmon from the freezer, a package of salmon that I had bought previously at the MD Oriental Market, and I decided to cook that instead. So, decisions are things that you make and then change, and So you keep redeciding and redeciding and redeciding. And hopefully, each successive decision improves on the previous ones. Choices, on the other hand, are, I made a choice to go home with him. or, lots of people wake up in the morning and they go, what have I done? It's like, you made a choice. And so, like, what I learned about stock trading from, there's this book I like called The Hour Between Dog and Wolf. And there's a lot of good stuff in it. And one of the things was about choices and how it is much, neurologically speaking, it is a much more involved process to choose to get into a trade than it is to choose not to. I'm sure we've all had the experience of, I had this experience on Thursday, speaking of which. I enter with stop loss orders. I put the order above where the price is. And the price went through my order without triggering it twice, which is because what I'm looking at is actually a graphic. You're not actually seeing the, where the stock is trading. You're seeing a graphic that is made after the stock trades there, and sometimes it's pretty simultaneous with what's actually happening, but sometimes it isn't. So it was below my order, and then all of a sudden it was above my order, and it just went on a couple of times, and on the third try I actually got into the trade, and I got into it at a point where it was going to go into a complex pullback, which wasn't very deep. For example, had I simply left my stop where it was, I don't do the stops on my trades. Greg does. So it was at a place where, had Greg simply left the stop where it was, it wouldn't have stopped out. Or had he moved it up about a third, had he shaved off about a third of the amount of the stop, he also would not have been in any danger of getting stopped out. But he pushed it up a little bit too far, teeny bit, and so the trade stopped out. It turned into a fiasco. We never got into the move. We tried twice and took 2 tiny losses on it, and then we gave up, and anyway. And when these things happen, I laugh so hard. Some of them are just really so amusing. Like the things that happen in not only trading, but but in the price action itself. I sometimes just look at the price action and start laughing. Because it's funny. That's why it's humorous, Anyway, let's see. So, decisions and choice. I'm in the middle of talking about choices, and as I was saying, like when you have to, like when you're deciding to get into a trade. Now, I used to have a buy button on my gaming mouse, and I would just press it and I'd get into the trade with the market order, you know. And there is, you know, all I can say is you never get in where you wanted to, because you look at it and you have to choose to move your hand over there to the button and you know, it's this whole series of things. Plus, according to this neurologist, and I suppose you have to read the book because I can't actually remember specifically what he said, is that the choice simply is a more complex brain process to decide to do something than to decide not to. It's easier to decide to choose not to do something. It's much easier. And if a person has decision fatigue, they will be more likely to choose not to do things because they're just they don't have the energy to make another choice. The term decision fatigue actually means choice fatigue. It has nothing to do with making decisions, the way I'm using these two words. But it is a known neurological phenomenon. They've measured it. They've tested it. So what I do is I put in an order, and I put it in where I think it's like being a military sniper. If a sniper is shooting at a moving target, he has to aim at where the target will be when the bullet gets there. Because you have to remember, he's a mile away. So he's firing this high-powered rifle, and the bullet is going to sail through the air and be affected by the wind. And it's actually, some of them take the rotation of the earth, believe it or not, into account when calculating their shots. Calculations are, you know, the more sophisticated your calculations are, the more precise what you're doing will be, and the more likely you'll be to hit your target, you know. And so what I do is I put my order where it will be, where it will cross. And as it's approaching that spot, I watch the action, and that's where I make my choice whether or not to do the trade. So when I put my order in, that's a decision to put the order in. I have not made the choice to do the trade until I let the order execute, right? You know, I mean, unless I sit there and go, okay, I put the order in, I guess I'll get into this and see what happens. I can't really, you know, just choose these things. I mean, I don't know what it's going to do, you know. I could just sit there and complain, you know, and be unhappy. Or I can sit there and watch very carefully, and I have a button that cancels the buy order on my mouse. I used to have a button that canceled all the orders because it's a bracket. It has a stop, a limit, and a buy order. But what I discovered was that I was pressing the button to cancel it, and it would go through and hit the order. And I didn't want to be in the trade at that point because it wasn't moving fast enough, or it gave some other indicator that it was just going to hang around here and was going to trigger my order, but then it was just going to hang around here and stop. And I'm almost always right about that. So, I mean, haven't been too many times where I said, oh no, I don't want to do this, but it triggered, and then, oh, it was just so great. I'm so glad, that I got into it. That doesn't happen. You have to be more skeptical about this stuff. But what I discovered was that if I just have a button that cancels only the buy order, if the buy order cancels, the other orders will automatically cancel, because they trigger each other. So if there's no buy order, the other orders disappear anyway. So I don't need to cancel them. And this stops me from getting into something where I press this button, but it's already triggered and I'm in the trade. And now I don't have a bracket because I had this cancel all function, and it would cancel the whole thing, but I had the trade, so I didn't have any stop and limit. I was so screwed. And so I figured out how to use my equipment. And see, that's the thing, is that when you start a business, you have to decide how to use your equipment. And, I was one of the first businesses on the planet to have a PC computer system that was networked, and also that transmitted all its data across cities. It was an intranet where the cities communicated with each other. And this was by the way, 56K modems. It took 6 hours to do a data dump from one city to the next. It was the early days of computing. But I figured it out, and I took my programmers out there. They were clueless about how to do it, and I just told them how to set it up. Then they programmed it. There are certain people like me who, we know a lot about computers, but we know nothing about computers. So this enables me to make a faster and more direct choice. So that's why I decided to trade by this particular entry approach of putting my stop in first and then canceling it if I don't want the trade. Because a lot of things look very good, like way out, like 4 or 5 minutes before they develop. They look like they're setting up to do this thing, and they look great, but they aren't. So it really is important to understand all you can about yourself. And a lot of stuff about yourself is in books or on YouTube movies. Like there was this one neurologist who made a joke. He said, "We don't have free will, we only have free won't." Because it is very hard to say I will do something, but very easy to say I won't do it. So what I do all day when I'm trading is I sit there and watch the choices and decisions I make. And while I'm watching them, I critique my choice and decision-making process, to see how I like myself. And, like, do I feel like I'm with it, like, okay. Doing things like that. I'm not creating a virtual reality and then acting on it. Let's put it that way. This is going to go up, I can buy. Wrong. You have to remember in trading that you can know exactly what the market is going to do, literally. Like, it's going to go from here, it's going to finish accumulating, it's going to go up there, it's going to stop there, and then it's going to start back down, and that's going to be the end of the day. And you can get all the pinballs exactly right in your mind as they're bouncing off the thing. And if you decide to act on that, you are in a virtual reality. Don't create virtual realities. That's great. Just don't live in them. So a lot of people are making decisions to create a virtual reality, or they're actually giving themselves pain to make reality real. There's a whole scale of this, the lower you drop on the scale, the more it hurts, and the higher up you go, the more fun you have, and the less it hurts, and the more alive you feel. So you have to be asking yourself, where am I? How am I feeling about my choices and my decisions? Today I feel pretty good about not having gone to the Oriental market and having, I still have salmon to make for dinner, and I'm coming out here instead to do my little talk, which I will listen to in a few days, give it a chance to gel, and then I'll listen to it and see how, if I misspoke in any way, or just to understand what I'm like now. This is all about. It's not so much about understanding the market, because the truth is the market's pretty easy to understand most of the time. Like yesterday, I didn't do a single trade, and I came at 3 o'clock when I said I was going to come, and I stayed till 4, and I watched the whole time, and I learned a lot. And that was maybe a topic for another talk, but learning is more important than trading.